Hello everyone, this is altrodesi and welcome again. This is the third part to my double page spread series, and it is the commentary version, as you can hear. I wanted to, talk about some other points other than what we talked about last time, because I didn't leave any parts out per se, but I feel as though there's some things I could share. Also this video is definitely sped up at ×8. I definitely cannot draw this fast or ink this fast. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was I guess a little bit about composition, and mainly what composition is how you arrange the objects in a picture. That's I believe the usual standard definition. But basically in comics you want to arrange things in a certain way. I guess what I mean is you want to arrange them the way you want them to be read. So since you're creating this story and you're creating these images, storytelling fashion, if your format is the regular European or American way, that means your pages should be set up from left to right, going, from left to right and down, continuously left, right, down, left, right, down. It'll create like a Z. If you're doing the manga, or Japanese usual way of comics, it's the opposite. It is from right to left and down. So when I create images, let's say this image that I'm working on here, I don't know how long it's going to be on screen, but the image that I'm working on here, I show the main character in front. He's basically overlapped with these group of characters here. They're in a group, they're all together. You can clearly see that technically if you drew a line of their heads together, they're at a certain angle, they're basically overlapped. I'll go into all the extra special details a little later in a different video. But basically he's separated from that group. He's a little bit more threatening because, he has this power up going on and they can't necessarily see it, but they know something's going on, but they're trying to attack him. You've got the boss type bad guy in the background, and he's yelling some orders, shouting something to them. So basically you see the main character first, you see that he's powering up to get ready to do something. You see the opposing, bad guys or whatever coming towards him to attack him, and then afterwards you see the other guy all the way at the end. There's a space, and I generally create if there's a space like that in between a character or characters, sometimes it can mean that the longer you take getting to them with your eyes can also represent distance. So it could be a distorted angle, that he could be pretty far back, definitely depending on his size, but he could also be pretty far back with that little gap right there. And notice I also show overlap by making sure my character doesn't get I would say lost in the details of the other characters. So I kind of white out him, whereas though he'll stand out in the front, so he's in the foreground. The three characters are in the middle ground, and the last character is in the background from this second page of the double page spread. It's important to understand how you're going to develop your pages this way, how you're going to lay out the composition for your characters in the background, foreground, middle ground, background, and all the details and the stuff that's going to go on inside of it. It's very important, because if you don't do it correctly, you'll mess with the flow of the scene. So that's just one little thing I wanted to say. as far as I guess overlapping and composition as far as a panel goes. The other one is that even though you set things up like that in one panel, you also have to set up the word balloons like that as well. Like for example, well, how I have this one, I have 2 word balloons, but I think I edit one out and I do one on the computer. But basically the whole idea is that one is going to be obviously read first and the other one's going to be read second. But you don't want to give off, any freedom to that. You want it to be read a specific way, so you have to make it that way. So basically, by having one, let's say the one that you see that I've drawn is not at the top of the page. A better place for it to be is further down, not attached to the actual top of the page. It would be better if it was placed a little down. Definitely if they were close. If they were close, I would definitely want to not have it at the top of the page. That way you wouldn't be confused or have any option to possibly read it the incorrect way. Also, by making, well, basically that's the word balloon part. Basically you're worried about flow, and in all page design you want to worry about flow. Flow, in my opinion, or what I think about when I say flow, is flow from panel to panel and page to page. It may not be the exact definition, but that is definitely what I go by when I think about the flow of a comic or a picture itself. Every picture has to flow from one point to the next, and you can use a lot of different tricks to make sure that happens, and some of them are value choices. So now I'm working on this little last panel, and basically from the first panel it kind of starts, and it goes down, and then it goes down, but then it goes all the way across. So basically it goes all the way across, then it goes down again to the first page, and you see that he's about to punch on the first page at the bottom, and then he punches on the second page at the second page's bottom. Oh, also I am doing the Japanese format. It just rubbed off on me, I guess. I read a lot of manga when I was younger, and I don't know, when you're right-handed you can pretty much draw a profile face looking towards the left, and that is the usual direction that a character walks, flies, runs, whatever, in that direction in a manga. So it feels, I guess, natural to draw characters going that direction. In a comic, comic, manga, same thing. Different format here. So mainly it was easier to pick up, and getting so used to reading it, when I started to draw my comics, I would sometimes confuse myself because I wasn't thinking, but I had subconsciously drew my comic the opposite way, and I just got used to it. But that's why I draw that way. Of course I can flip it in the computer, since I do mainly I do a lot of different things in the computer. I do my tones in the computer, dialogue, sound effects, stuff like that. Usually I do draw my sound effects on my thumbnails and whatnot like that. That way I know exactly, where they're going to be when I put them in the computer. But I have a method for doing them a certain way in the computer. Another thing I want to talk about is, just for a brief moment, because I want to make videos, I guess, specifically on a lot of these topics, but another thing I wanted to go over was making your own process, and that's really important. You want to create your own process for the comic that you want to work on, and by creating that process, sometimes you might want to incorporate some rules. As far as the process goes, process is supposed to make sure that you definitely stay on schedule, some type of schedule. Sometimes, I understand some people don't have all the time in the world. So technically your schedule is whenever I get any type of time, it is to my comic or, you know, my research for the storyline and stuff like that. Technically what I'm on right now. Or you basically make sure you keep up with your schedule and you hit your deadlines for how many pages you want to do a week and stuff like that. That way, you know, you can figure out what you want to do next. Obviously, it is also for quality. Your process is definitely for quality. You want to, you know, make sure you do all your basic steps and your layout and your thumbnail drawings and stuff like that. You want to do all your poses and stuff like that. You want to make sure your foreground, middle ground, background, you know, and you want to go over your value scales and make sure you're directing the eye to go the way you want it to, you know. You definitely want to, you know, you ink, if you ink your own pages and all that, you look over everything you draw, every single detail you draw, you look over it and you fix every problem you can. Most of the time, I basically, if I ink my pages, I would love to just instantly just go, ooh, it's done, and scan it right into the computer and start working on it. Usually I don't do that. Basically the setup that I have now is, I would love to do that, but I usually have to come back to it and look at it and stuff because I'm usually busy. But usually I come back to it and I see all these mistakes, and I basically do several passes on it and fix all the mistakes I can by hand, because for me, working in the computer is a little harder. It's a little harder because I'm just not accustomed to it as much as I would love to be working on the computer. So I kind of intake every single tip that I possibly can about the computer. I have a little notepad. I write down all the little commands and stuff. And the good part is, the more you sit there and work on it, you'll get better at the computer. The more you get better at typing, you know, Control Z, you'll really get used to undoing and all that good stuff. But that's basically for your process, for your quality, and making sure you get things done at a timely manner, because, you know, life isn't promised to everyone for a very long time. You never know when things gonna get really bad, and you never know. But anyway, but basically, I guess what I mean by that is, if you don't plan for your comic to end at a certain point in time, it can technically last forever. And in my opinion, that is a bad thing, because you're always supposed to start your stories with the end in mind. Every character was, I believe, is supposed to be started with the end in mind, unless it's just a fun character. And then you have no end in sight for that character, because it's just supposed to be fun. But if you want it to be a serious storyline, you want it to mean something, you have to make sure that character has an interesting ending. An ending where as though there's a meaning there. Everything that you place into your character is all for what they become in the end, you know. So in order to get there in a timely manner, you have to kind of, you know, you gotta figure out how many am I gonna do a week, how much is gonna get done in a month, how much is gonna get done in a year, you know, how many books is that if you're gonna print out books, how many webcomics is that if you're gonna put it on the web. That way things can get done at a timely manner, and the story will basically won't have to be stretched, you know, for other purposes. You know, the story is the most important thing. I guess one of the last things I want to talk about is not being afraid to try a new technique. Definitely, if you feel like it might work. Maybe I'll get to a second topic, but if you feel like a technique might work, do not be afraid to try it, because 9 times out of 10 it really might work. Now, what I would like to say is that another small little tip is that you should create little small rules for your comic. Little small rules, like, let's just say, what is a good rule? Okay, for my main character's hair, usually I talk to myself and say, I'm gonna only do maybe 1 to 2 strands of hair for each little strand of hair. So let's say I do a little, you know, I do a little string of hair, you know, a big part of hair, I put little 2 strands of lines in there. Usually, that's like a little small rule of mine that I usually go by. Sometimes it's 3 though. Every now and then it changes. But by sticking to those rules, my style can stay consistent. Little small rules like that help your style stay consistent. So you can't really, you can have a style, but if it's not consistent, it's really hard to judge what's going on if you're switching different facial expressions all the time without purpose, just because you feel like it belongs there. I mean, it can work if you have a better sense of understanding of what you're really doing, but it is definitely good to have some type of rules and balance so that you can always make sure that your style is consistent with what you want it to look like. If you want to make a conscious choice to change the way your style looks, then of course you can change that rule. But consistency is good for when you get some type of fans and they get used to your style and then you change something. They're like, that doesn't seem right. It doesn't usually draw that way, or she doesn't usually do that. But I think that's one of my last tips. Wanted to go into more detail into some other parts, but I believe I'll do that for another time. As always, you guys, this is altrodesi. If you like the video, please subscribe. If you have any suggestions for something you think I might, have some type of guidance, or maybe you want me to talk about, then definitely tell me. Comment in the description box. Go to my Facebook link. It's in the description. Definitely like my fan page, my art fan page there, and send me a message and tell me what you think about the videos that I'm doing here, and tell me if you like them or not. I would greatly appreciate it. It's altrodesi, and I'm out.